Thank you, Roy. Hi everyone, it's Johnny Seed here again, and today I'm going to be answering the questions that were put to me as part of my 200 subs competition. Thank you very much again for everyone who entered and for everybody who asked the question. I have the questions up on the screen here. Without further ado, let's crack on. Okay, so Jimmy the Saint, aka Daz, asked, what is the oldest vinyl record that you own? Well, I had a little bit of a look around and it's probably going to be one of these Jazz 10 inches that I picked up last summer. From what I can tell, these are from the early 50s, around 51, 52 or 53. They don't really have any dates on them, as I think that's probably was quite common back then, I don't know. But yeah, a little bit of research tells me these were from the early 50s, so yeah, these are the oldest records that I own. Alright, question number 2. This is from Richard McCook. If you could go back in time, which band or artist would you like to see live? Easy answer for me, this one. I'd like to see Jimi Hendrix on acid. I'd be on acid. I'm assuming he'd be on acid as well. Question number 3. This is by DJ High Noon. What's the biggest record that got away? Hadn't lost, missed out on a sale, outbid on eBay at the last moment, whatever it was. Okay, so I made a video about this last summer. It's called Gutted. I will put a link to it below. I will retell the story now for you. I was heading off to my local charity shop, the place where I get a lot of my second-hand records from, and just as I was entering, there was a gentleman about to enter at the same time, so I deferred and let him in, being polite, and he went straight over to the vinyl records just ahead of me and started pulling things out of the box, and of course he had a Sgt. Pepper and he had Salty Dog by Procol Harum, and I think there was another one, there was a Bob Dylan album. He just grabbed all the good stuff just ahead of me, and they were £1 each, so yeah, I missed out on them by a fraction of a second and by being polite. So okay, question number 4. This is by Vinyl Rundown. Your vids are pretty creative. What computer and software do you use to make YouTube videos, editing, graphics, etc.? Okay, so my computer is a Dell Optiplex, a refurbished one that I got in the beginning of 2018. The video software that I use is called VideoPad, and it's called VideoPad by NCH Software. I was using it for a couple of years previously on the free version, just to make sort of music videos and things, nothing really too intricate, but I kind of got used to using it. And so when I kind of upgraded the computer and when I started doing YouTube videos, I kept the same thing. It's very basic, not a lot of bells and whistles on it, but I knew how to use it, and now I can edit things quite quickly on it, which is the main bonus. I got the paid version in the end. I think it was only about $30. I'll have to see if that's still the case. But yeah, I'd recommend that. It's, you know, a good starter, good place to start. I don't think for the sort of videos I make I need anything like Adobe Premiere or After Effects or anything super complicated like that. I like to keep it simple and keep it quick. I'm just going to get a drink. This is water, by the way, it's not gin. Right, question number 5. This is by our competition winner, Teresa Taylor. Congratulations again, Teresa. And Teresa asked, is there a specific label that might prompt you to pick up a blind buy just from the label? Buddha would be mine. Okay, we don't get very many Buddha records over here in the UK. Well, we get a couple. I've seen a few in the in record shops. So if you think they're good enough to pick up as a blind buy, I'll probably grab them. Good question. I'd probably go with Factory. I don't actually own anything on Factory, and the thing about Factory is I know that they're very collectible. So if I was to pick something up as a blind buy and I didn't like it, I know that I could probably pass it on if necessary. But there's probably a good chance that I'd keep it and it'd be something that I like. So yeah, my answer to that would be Factory. Okay, Flip Disc. Hello Mark, and he asks, this is question number 6. How are you finding your new vinyl listening setup? Are you pleased, or is there anything you would change? Is there a component you would like to add in order to play other formats, CD or cassette, etc.? Okay, I am very, very happy with my setup. I got the Audio Technica 120. I'll put the full title on the screen, and the speakers, Edifier speakers, absolutely fine. I've had no problems with it whatsoever. It's perfectly set up for the room I've got here. As far as things I would add, maybe in the future I would think about adding an amp, but At the moment, I don't really feel the need for that. As far as a CD player goes, possibly, yeah, I can play CDs through my computer. Now, the good thing about these Edifier speakers is that they have two inputs, so you can have two things going into them. So I have one set up to the turntable and one set up to my computer, so I play CDs through my computer. Although it's a bit of a faff, so possibly a CD player. As far as a tape deck, I do have a tape deck, but I mainly just use it for archiving cassettes. I don't really listen to cassettes anymore because most of the cassettes I've got are at least 20, possibly 30 years old, and they don't last forever. So if I'm going to play them, it's usually just to play, listen to see if there's anything on there I want to keep, like any old rehearsals or stuff that I've made myself, and then transfer them onto the computer. I am going to be getting, should be arriving today actually, one of those acrylic platters. I saw Naz Nomad, aka David, do a video about these, and he said they were a very cheap way of upgrading your sound, so I thought why not give one of them a go. So that should be arriving today, and possibly even a new cartridge, but they're probably the only two things I've got any plans to get in the near future. So right, question number 7, this is from Gavin Johnson. What one record would you grab if the house was burning down? So it could be your most valuable or the one you're most sentimental about. Okay, so my answer to that is going to be this one. It's not the most valuable by a long shot, and I don't really have anything that's super valuable anyway. This is Beethoven's 6th Symphony, the Pastoral, and the reason why I'm picking this one is because this belonged to my dad. He didn't really have a lot of records, my dad. He probably had about, I don't know, a dozen or so. There was some classical and some Roy Orbison and some sort of country and Irish music and things like that. So yeah, he didn't really listen to a lot of music, but I do definitely remember him playing this a few times and filling the house full of music. And this was my first introduction to classical music in any serious way. I remember listening to this on headphones, and this was the album for me that kind of changed me from just enjoying music like most people do to actually loving music. This was the record that really, when I listened to it, just completely changed the way I thought about music and the kind of effect it would have on me. And I was probably about 10 years old. Yeah, I used to listen to this over and over again on headphones and just be blown away by it. You know, most of my friends at the time were listening to Adam and the Ants and Bad Manners and things like that were in the charts, and I was listening to classical music. You know, it took me a couple of years to sort of catch up to contemporary stuff. So yeah, this was probably the one record that I would grab. Okay, question number 8. Steve Whitty asks, what is your least favourite music genre? Good question. Okay, so I'm the sort of person that would say that I can pretty much find something good in every genre, but there are a few that I don't really listen to a lot. I don't really listen to a lot of club music, you know, sort of hard house, deep house, that kind of thing. Stuff that in the UK we have this, there's a series of CDs called Ministry of Sound, I think they are, the kind of stuff you find on there. You know, sort of trance, anything that's just a bit sort of generic. I mean, it's the sort of music that you listen to off your face on E in a nightclub and dance to, you know, and I don't do either of those things anymore, and so I don't really listen to that kind of music. And although I am a bit partial to a bit of drum and bass and a bit of jungle. Another genre I'm not too crazy about is modern country music, or country music in general. I mean, Western, you know, country and Western is probably a bit different, isn't it? I guess that's more like your traditional folk music. So yeah, that's not too bad. But yeah, modern country, I don't know, it all sounds a bit the same to me. I don't know why, but yeah. And I can't really think of another genre that I'd probably say I disliked. You know, there's usually something good, as long as it's done with passion. I mean, anything that, what's his face, Simon Cowell has had his fingers involved in, I'd probably avoid. You know, top 40 music from the last sort of 15, 20 years, I don't really have any kind of interest in. Okay, and question number 9. This is from Callum Rhodes. This is a good question. What do you make of Morrissey in general, as a person, singer, icon, etc.? Okay, I've had a long think about this one. So, Morrissey. Now, I'd say that I like the Smiths. I like some of the singles, although I'm not really, I don't really know their albums that well. I don't own any Smiths, but I have no problem with the Smiths' music. I quite like some of his solo stuff. Last of the Gang to Die, and the stuff from that album that came out a few years ago, well, about 10 years ago now, I think, was it? 10, 15? I think that's quite good. And some of his later stuff that I've heard. Okay, so Morrissey is a musician. fine, yeah, not so bad. Don't dislike him at all. Now, Morrissey as a person and his opinions, I'd have to say I don't really agree with a lot of stuff he says. However, I will say that I would rather live in a world where someone like Morrissey is able to say the things that he says and I disagree with him, than live in a world where everybody just kind of conforms and the thought police have taken over and no one else has ever say anything controversial. Now, I know that freedom of speech doesn't mean the freedom to be an arse and to, you know, upset people for no reason. And yeah, he has sort of gone out on a limb a bit recently with some of his statements, which like I said before, I don't really agree with. However, the fact that he can say that is, you know, is better than the alternative, put it that way. You know, if you've not read 1984, I definitely recommend reading it. Fantastic book. Although it never once mentions Thriller by Michael Jackson, and that was everywhere that year. And also it's funny when people are famous and they go off on rants like that, and hopefully I would like to think that some people are intelligent enough not to sort of, you know, follow what he says simply because he says it, you know? And that goes for a lot of other people as well. Ooh, that's the door. Alright, sorry about the interruption. That was a postman, and this has arrived. I'm not going to say what it is. Excuse me, this is for another video. Right, where were we? Okay, question number 10, and this is from SparksTron. Thank you very much for your questions, Sparks. He asked 3 questions, so I'm going to go through these one at a time. And his first question was, what 5 albums would you take on a desert island? Okay, so that would be OK Computer by Radiohead, the Stone Roses album. I would take this one, Beethoven's 6th Symphony. I would take any of the Elliott Smith albums that were recorded while I was alive. Take your pick, any one of them. And Trompe le Monde by the Pixies. And his second part of his question was, which 5 songs would you remove from existence? Okay, that is going to be, so my answer to that is going to be Agadoo, Hold My Girl, or Shotgun by Ezra, what's his face? George Ezra. I Wish I Could Fly by Orville. I hate that duck. And how many have we got here? Okay, so these last 2 are probably going to be, how have I done? Oh my god. Alright, there's going to be more than 5. Anyway, and I've got 2 which I wouldn't exactly erase from existence, but I'd remove from the albums they were on. And I'd like to know if anybody out there has got a similar answer to this. We know if you had an album which you think would be vastly improved by the removal of one track, what would it be? And my answer to that is going to be where's it going? Not very prepared. Right, and so yeah, so a song that I would remove from an album, I would remove Songbird from Rumours. For some reason I don't like that song. Thankfully it's at the end of side 1, so I can just stop it earlier. And secondly, and probably most controversially, and tell me down in the comments if you think I'm balmy and you disagree, but I would take When I'm 64 off Sgt. Pepper. I've never been keen on that song. I will tolerate it because it's part of this greatest album ever made, possibly. But yeah, I would like it if When I'm 64 was not on this album. Now I'm thinking of doing a video about my favourite Beatles albums and ranking them. Not really ranking them. I've done a Beatles ranking album. I did one last year, but I never uploaded it because it wasn't very good. I don't think I was in there in good form. So maybe I'll just do my top 5 Beatles albums and the reasons why, and pose the question, and I'm sure this has been posed before, would it be better with Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields on? It's something I'm going to have to think about. But yeah, I would remove When I'm 64 from this album. So yeah. Okay, and part 3 to SparksTron's question is, what 5 albums or singles would you tell your younger self to buy? If I could go back in time and tell my younger self something, what would it be? John, it's me. I mean you, from the future. Oh god, round 2, you're in a fire? Don't be cheeky and pay attention. This album, it's actually really good. No way, that's not people's music. Look, stop being a putz and give it a proper listen. And buy all the Stone Roses vinyl you can lay your hands on. Vinyl? I thought minidisc was the future. It never went away. Oh, and remember this word, Bitcoin. What? Okay, so apart from buying all Stone Roses singles and 12 inches and convincing myself that Rumours was actually worth a listen, I would probably get the Appetite for Destruction with the original cover. I'm pretty sure my cousin had that because she was the one who introduced me to the Stone Roses. She was the one who introduced me to the Guns N' Roses. So Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction with the original cover, I'd grabbed that one while it was in the shops. I was thinking about this as well. I was wondering because I love the Fall, and I knew who the Fall were when I was younger, say in my 20s, but I just don't think I was ready to listen to them yet because I knew who they were, but I wasn't kind of like grabbed by them. I think the Fall are one of them bands that maybe you just gotta wait till you're grabbed by them. Oh, and a band I heard a couple of years ago called Caius, Josh Homm's, I don't know how to pronounce these words. I think it was his first band, and I heard that and I thought, if I'd have heard this album when I was 20, 21, I'd have loved it. It'd be my favourite album because I was so into that kind of grunge Soundgarden sort of sound. I would have loved that album. Not necessarily saying it's alright, I quite like it, but it's not something I love now. But back then I definitely would have liked it, but I just never heard it. And a band that I've only just recently got into, literally in the last couple of weeks, and that's The Damned. Again, a band that I've known about for years and years and years, but never really listened to. And I've been going through their albums online, listening to them, and they're very impressed. Very, very impressed, in fact. So yeah, I know quite a few of you out there really like The Damned, and I can see why. So, more vodka. Right, where are we up to? And question 11 from Lise, aka L.E. She asked, "Where's Kitty?" And I've got two kitties. This one's Herb. This one's Mo. As you can tell, they don't really like being held up together, so I will let them down. So, yeah, and if anybody knows where I got those names from, then you'll get a thumbs up from me in the comments. So, right, question 12. This is from Cracking Vinyl. Hi Graham, thank you very much for asking a question. And his question was, what is your favourite label in terms of the music released by that label? Now, I've really had a long think about this one, and this is tough. I'm going to have to say, my knowledge of labels, catalogues is not that great that I would be able to say, yeah, I like everything that's done by this particular label. Now, there are a few labels which I associate with particular bands that I like Paisley Park, Silvertone for the Stone Roses, Pro Plus for Half Man Half Biscuit. They seem to be like, specifically down to one particular band. So I'd probably go with sort of, UK indie labels like, 4AD, I think they're British, Mute, Factory, like I've said before, Beggars Banquet, they always seem to have quite good stuff. But yeah, as far as major labels go, I mean, they kind of like, it's difficult to say. I'm going to have to sort of say this is a tricky one for me. What have I seen? Harvest did quite good stuff back in the day. Virgin, even. What's the other one? Liberty. I've seen a few things on there which I think are all right, but like I said, I don't know what other stuff was on them. But, in order for me to say that yes, that's a label that I would go for. All right, so and finally, James Griffiths asked probably the toughest question of the day. And it was the shortest question. Well, almost the shortest question, apart from Lisa's. James's question was Beatles or Stones, and why? Right, so I've been racking my brains for the last couple of weeks trying to think about this one, and I've got an and why. I've got an answer. Okay, so in terms of the percentage of music of theirs, as a whole, which I think is brilliant, I'd have to say the Beatles, because there's not a lot of Beatles. In fact, there's hardly any Beatles songs which I dislike that have been on a studio album of theirs, let's say. And of course, as far as songwriting and the quality of production and the originality, Beatles probably gets it. But if I'm being really honest, and I say, what have I actually listened to in the last 20, 30 years? Have I listened to more Beatles or more Stones? I'd probably say I've listened to more Stones. Now, there are a few Stones records, songs and albums, pretty much the Mick Taylor years, which just really get me in a particular way that Beatles records don't. I don't know exactly what it is, I think, and I'd probably say that the Stones, for me, have more soul than the Beatles do. And certain tracks, you know, like Gimme Shelter, Street Fighting Man, Sympathy for the Devil, Can You Hear Me Knocking? Oh, you know, they're just, it's more of a visceral kind of like reaction. You know, they really get me in the guts and make the hair stand up on the back of my neck, which, you know, some Beatles songs do that. So my answer to this question is going to be, my head says the Beatles, but my heart says the Stones. You know, even though there's probably more Beatles records that I like, and I've not heard all the Stones records, but, you know, if I was forced to pick and choose between the two, and which one I would listen to forever and ever, I would probably pick the Stones. So yeah, that's my answer. Okay, thank you very much for watching. That was my 200 subscribers Q&A, answers. That was the answers to my 200 subs questions competition respondings. So I quite enjoyed that. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me about anything whatsoever, then put them in the comments, and if I get a few, I'll make another video like this maybe one day. And thank you very, very much for everyone who subscribed recently. If by some miracle I get to 300, I'll probably do another competition. I'd say thank you very much. So I'm off now to do some of my new hobby, which is changing the word heart to the word arse in song titles. Bye! Heavy. Heavy. Up. Where's he gone? Oh, you in there?